hope has been redefining itself within me, and I do believe it's collective. So I want to share. So the hope, the way I understood it to be, the way I used it, was a projection. It was something out there that I placed my expectation. I was hoping, right, that something would see me, the universe, Dharma would align with timing and would bring a solution. It was really giving my power away in a way that I didn't really notice because, the slogan is, if we only have hope, and it's useful. Now I'm seeing how hope is such a useful tool. And it's interesting because in tarot, the star card is kind of symbolizing the soul's hook, right? It's hooking us into something outside so that we can persevere through the pain, through whatever we have going on until we arrive into this clarity. But once we arrive, this type of hope, which is kind of truly the epitome of victimhood, right? Because all our power is into this projection totally outside of ourselves. And this trust that we hope, or the trust that we place our hope into, it's kind of coming from this, I can't do anything else but put this trust into this hope. And it's packaged into something positive. And I think it is. It's needed. It was this capacity that we held. And it was okay. So I'm not looking at it as a judgment. It was perfect for wherever I was at. But this hope has redefined. So using the star card again, instead of being a hook from the soul, hooking into me and pulling me towards the soul me, I have integrated with that, where now I understood that the hook is totally within my being. The trust is totally within me. And this trust is not coming from this place of, I can't do anything else but trust. When I look within myself, the trust, the confidence comes from a well-being. It comes from a relaxed abdomen. I feel like my intestines have more space. And it's such a, I don't know how else to say it besides well-being. I feel well within, and I trust within. The hook it just cannot be anything but inside of me. And this morning, I'm realizing that this redefinition of hope, even though I'm comfortable using the same word. It's not even the same word. It's a totally different state of being. And so even though I'm using the same word, it's not that, but I'm no longer even interested to come up with a different word. I'm okay using hope in this state. But what's interesting with this realization this morning is I'm here because for the past weeks, I've been working with releasing guilt within me. And I'm fully understanding that as I'm allowing the guilt to dissipate, to dissolve, at the same time, this hope started to redefine. And so these two, hope and guilt, were these forces, dualistic game. They were playing on each other. And I don't really care to be even precise. Is it really guilt? Guilt is the antithesis of hope. I'm using them loosely. Right now, that's how I get to translate them as guilt, because this guilt was playing really hard. It was pulling on me. And I understood it. It was the guilt of expansion, right? Because as we expand, the guilt of sort of leaving the relationships the way we defined them behind. It was leaving the people the way I looked upon them behind. So it's really, I'm leaving my whole world the way I defined it behind, right? So in that expansion, I have to come into this conclusion, into this separation, that I'm becoming somebody else. And the embodiment of that, even though I'm celebrating my expansion, this weekend I had one day of just complete sorrow. And I couldn't even articulate why. I just woke up and I was just grieving. I wasn't quite clear what exactly was I grieving. I was just sobbing and releasing. And I was okay with myself in that state. I was so okay being with myself that I didn't even care to keep investigating why. I was just allowing. It was actually so deep that I couldn't, I felt like I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the desire to investigate, because I'm allowing to be myself more in the body. And when we are more with the body, we understand that the mind doesn't have to be there. We don't have to constantly understand. And this understanding, many times, do we have the capacity to understand precisely, right? To understand effectively? Many times we just create this, what is this word? Because I'm a master of, what's the word? Rationalize. I can come up with whatever, but is that whatever accurate? Within that accuracy, is it precise enough? Is it true? Or is it just another projection? Right? So that's why it is kind of arbitrary, right? Whatever we rationalize, it is still a dependency on our understanding, but the emotion and the feeling is true. And it's almost like the less you have the need to rationalize, the less you have the need to define that feeling, the more that feeling is in its precision, it is in its own definition, is in its truth. And so I believe, because I didn't care to understand. I processed that emotion very effectively and efficiently. Now I can use those words. But at the time, I flowed, which was yesterday, or whenever, the day before yesterday. And today, I have the clarity to understand what exactly it happened as an observation, as the observer. And so this guilt, and it's almost like the choice was presented to me between the guilt and the hope. And because when the guilt and then the hope, because they alternate, right? As soon as you move out of this guilt, you go into the other extreme of hope, and I'm rationalizing and I'm creating a new target just so that I can bounce back into guilt, right? And they keep playing on each other like that. But when this guilt came up last time, I resisted the want or the addiction, really, again, to make a choice. I made a choice, but without calling it a choice, right? The higher choice was this loyalty. I chose the subtleness within myself to not make the choice in the 3D. And that not choice created the embodiment, because I feel like I was clear and I spoke about this, but it's like, where's my wisdom? And I almost wanted to go through my notes, because it's like, oh my God, I had this. If I just could understand my own teachings. And I resisted, right? Because it's like, but it's within me. I already spoke it. So just keep it, keep with me. This loyalty towards myself, this recognition within this moment. And I realize how sweet this is all the time. This sweetness is coming about more sweet and more sweet from this non-choosing. And that is, again, this liberation of parts of ourselves, right? Because even if you realized yourself, there are more parts and more embodiment that is happening deeper and deeper within the layers of the physical. And so that's how embodiment looks. Embodiment happens over weeks. Embodiment happens within layers, still within duality, releasing the need to play. And then within that release, the layers dissolve, right? The forces acting upon us dissolve. And that's embodiment. And it keeps pulling on the self, right? So now you're in this hope. Again, I'm feeling it at a much more collective level, that we are understanding that this hope is only within. And it can only be within the body's well-being. And when we realize this, we know that there's nobody out there, that we can only see ourselves out there. More and more, we're coming into this realization, because we don't understand that, right? Like we understand at certain level of how, okay, yeah, there's nobody out there. But this embodiment of one part of ourselves at a time within our wholeness, we're starting to really, really understand how this is real and how it's so true that whenever I look out there, I can only possibly see myself. And that's it. And so, if this, I don't even say resonates with you, if you are in this field of sharing, in this field of celebrating this expression, I invite you to visit my website, and you can sign up for my weekly newsletter. You can join the community that I'm hoping I'm hoping to share and to keep celebrating ourselves. Yeah. Thank you.